You're listening to My Inner Teacher with Peter Starius and Crystal Ariel. The answers you seek are within you.
All right. So Dallas, we have a lot of history, and we're both getting a little older now, and my memory isn't the same as yours probably, but the way I remember our introduction is you reached out to us at Manduka and just were kind of open with that request. And if I remember right, I said, of course, and I want to deliver them to you. And I just showed up at your studio with the mats. Was it something like that?
Kinda. First of all, I was a real big Manduka fan because I first of all, I like the longer, wider mat, and nobody was doing that, when you guys started that, and then the extra thicker mat, and damn, a Manduka mat you could have the rest of your life. And you had brought me, I had got a hold of you. I don't remember who, it might have been through Arthur Klein. I don't know, from Why Yoga, the movie. And I think that I was about to put this, it wasn't even my studio. We had rented this studio that had all the brickwork and looked manly, which is what yoga for regular guys, now DDP Yoga, was back then. It was strictly made for men, guys who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga.
Right.
And because I never thought I'd get women to do it, to be perfectly honest. So I just went for the men deal. But we had written the book, Yoga for Regular Guys, and then we were doing our first DVD series. And you said, I'll bring you the mats. I go, you'll actually bring me enough for the crew? He's like, yes, I'll bring them all. I said, awesome. So you came there and you brought, and I remember you brought me the 100-inch mat. That was 100 inches. And I remember going to Brian Kest's class and rolling that thing out, and he would call it the runway.
Yeah.
But I remember you being there and you saw what we were doing. It was half men, half women. There was always someone modifying the position. I could, go to that. And so no one, pretty much, if you could bend over and pick up your keys or reach up and change a light bulb, you could do the workout. And no one had really done that yet. But we were doing that, and you were like really blown away by just the production in general. And that was the first time I ever did anything like that. We did it ourselves, and I figured it out as we went along.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, the studio was definitely like more of a film studio than a yoga studio, but although it might have been a yoga studio, I just remember, it's Hollywood. We're going in, or I think it was Hollywood. It felt like Hollywood. And there you were with all these incredible, models and things doing that practice. More importantly, though, is this fact that your history, like when I saw you and then did the research on you, you were the last person that I would expect to be embracing yoga. And
yeah, you're right. You're right.
So what was it that went from, well, actually started a little bit with your history with wrestling. Like, how did you get into wrestling in the beginning?
Well, the short version is I was too old when I first wanted to go in. I went in as a manager, a guy who talks for the wrestlers who really can't talk. They've got great skills, but they can't put asses in the seats. So they would have a manager come in to do that. And I had tried wrestling, but I was 23, but didn't work out for me. I hurt my knee, and then I started running the nightclubs. And by that time, the booze, the broads, and the party took me in a whole different direction. Now I'm running a big club in Fort Myers, Florida, and I just get the urge to want to be involved again. And I end up making a videotape of me and a couple of guys who wanted to be wrestlers, who were bouncers for me at the time. And I sent it to the AWA, which is out in the middle of the Midwest. That was, wrestling still was in many different territories. It wasn't just one WWE. It was a lot of different territories. And I ended up getting the gig. And they wanted to fly me and my wrestlers in, and they wanted to give us an opportunity, to basically audition. And I had to say to the guy, well, the truth is none of those guys can wrestle. And he was like, what? Why would you send us the tape? I go, well, it's like a secret society. No one can figure out how to get into wrestling, and they want to be wrestlers. And basically, don't call us, we'll call you.
Right.
And 2 weeks later, they did call me, and I started on that path of being a manager at first. And I was still running my nightclub, so I was making great money there because wrestling cost me money. Like it cost me to be involved, whether it was getting there, the money was lame, the outfits, the whole deal. But I was investing in the character of Diamond Dallas Page. And it took 3.5 years before I finally got my opportunity to go to Ted Turner's World Championship Wrestling. And 7 months in, they told me I couldn't manage anymore, mainly because my look, the hair, the clothes, the bling. I had diamond dolls. Come to the ring with me. I was taking too much attention away from the wrestler. And I literally looked at this guy, Magnum TA, and I said, Magnum, are you telling me I'm too over the top for professional wrestling? And he started laughing. He's like, hey, it's not your fault. You know, what we should have done is put you in a pair of tights and boots and see if you could do this. I was 35 years old. I had 7 months left on my contract. And I just said, I'm going down there. I'm going to learn how to wrestle. And everybody laughed in my face because it's kind of like saying I'm going to be Fred Astaire, a dancer, and starting at 35 years old, because that's what wrestling is. Wrestling is a dance. You know, it's a show. You don't know what's real and what's not, because a lot of, when you're out there in the ring in front of 22,000 people, your adrenaline is through the roof. A lot of times we really hit each other, not in the face zone, but everywhere else. You can't fake gravity, the impact of wrestling. So I had finally made a breakthrough there, and it took me till I was 40 years old. But at 40 years old, my career started to take off. By the time I was 41, I was in the top 5 wrestlers in the world, and a whole unbelievable schedule, wrestling 270 plus days a year. I headlined in 13 out of 24 main event pay-per-views. I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal, and then I broke my back. And that's when I was told by 3 spine specialists I was never going to wrestle again. That took my feet out from under me. And within a week or so, my wife at the time, really, we're since then divorced, but she's the COO of my company, Birth of DDP Yoga. She is the COO and still one of my closest friends. Back then, she had said to me, you should really try yoga to heal your body. And my reaction was like, fuck that. I wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. Like, that's who I was. I was very ignorant, didn't really understand yoga. Put it in a box. It was a chick thing. And it took a little bit of prodding, because I'm the kind of guy who literally will try anything and everything. I'm the first to do anything before. I iced my body, my knees, my back, my shoulders before anybody did, by almost 7 or 8 years before anybody did it. That's only because trainers came in. I'm always looking for the next thing that's going to help me hold back the end of the time. So she really bullied me into trying yoga. And she was like Gumby. I'd looked at a couple of different people who it just wasn't my style. I won't name any names. It just wasn't my style. But then Brian Kess came up. And that's a cool cat. Even when he's in his most yogi state, he's still a super cool cat. Yeah. And I just related to him. And I started doing his whatever the workout was, the beginner one. Kimberly could do everything. I couldn't do anything. So eventually I grabbed a chair, which helped me get up and get down, which helped me go through a flow. And it took 3 weeks, but within the first 3 weeks, I started to feel a significant difference. And at the time, I'm doing Brian's workouts in the morning and at night, and I'm doing rehab during the day, because I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal that if I can't get back in that ring in the next, I think it was 4 to 6 months, somewhere in between there, they take away the money. Contract goes bye-bye. And it wasn't so much about the money as I was at the top of my game. A magazine that's in wrestling is called Pro Wrestling Illustrated, after Sports Illustrated, Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And I was number 4 wrestler in the world, 97 and 98. I mean, I'm living a dream at a different level. and then it all got taken away. So my only job is to get my body back to where I can get back in that ring and maybe do this again. And after a while, I realized that yoga was absolutely the base. When I started to it, one night before I went to bed, I started mixing the rehab with the yoga moves. And then, instead of just lowering cobra, down dog, I would lower for 3, hold for 3 seconds in chaturanga, and then push up for 3, lower for 3, hold for 3, then go to cobra to down dog. In the beginning, I had to do it on my knees, but eventually I got off my knees, and those 3-second push-ups became 5-second push-ups. 5-second push-ups became 10-second push-ups. My body was getting stronger, and then completely by accident, I'm wearing a heart monitor because I know not to train too high, too long, because that's how you hurt yourself. And I was getting off the Stairmaster because now I'm about 2 months into my rehab and I'm feeling stronger. I'm getting on the Stairmaster, but I'm not going to go over 133 because that's going to put me, oh, that's a boat. I thought it was a jet because these jets fly by here crazy sometimes. I would have to go inside. But I know not to, stay in that red zone too long. And I'd gotten off the Stairmaster. I got onto the mat. And at some point, I was doing some 10-second push-ups. And as I went to Cobra and went to Down Dog, I noticed my heart rate was still 135. I'm like, how's that possible? I'm standing still. So I went into Road Warrior 2, Warrior 2, as you would know it. Road Warrior 2, because it's named after wrestlers. And I was in Road Warrior 2, and I just grabbed like imaginary cables. And I just started squeezing and engaging. And I would count 3, 2, 1. And I'm looking at the heart rate monitor. And I'm seeing it go from 111, 112, 113, 160, 170. Engaging. Now I let go and watch it come back down. I was like, oh, wow. Every time I engage or flex or engage a muscle, the heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. So I created this whole dynamic resistance state, which is completely the opposite of yoga. Whenever I would go to a place, especially early on, before people knew what this thing was that I'm doing, I would go out there in front of maybe it's a yoga room, complete yogis, but a couple of my people. And I would say, if you think you came here for the yoga where you reach your arms to the heavens so the universe smiles back at you, and then I drop my arms, I go, we won't be doing that shit. We're going to be doing engaging and flexing as we're moving. Think isometrics, standing still, engaging, and then isokinetics, which is engaging and flexing as you're moving, as if you're moving weight, lifting weight, engaging as you're moving. And again, I found out completely by accident, every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. So what I created completely by accident, definitely based in yoga, but completely by accident, was a kick-ass cardiovascular workout that dramatically increased your flexibility, strengthened your core at a whole nother level with minimal to zero joint impact. Right. In less than 3 months, I was back in the ring. By that time, I'm doing what I call yoga for regular guys at the time. I'm doing it 3 hours a day because I have to train at a different level so that I can get back in the gym and start lifting, not heavyweight, but medium, and then slowly work my way back up to heavyweight again. But this became my staple. The yoga became the glue that held everything together as I moved forward.
Wow. What a story.
I want you to know, the first time I learned about you was when I had my first teacher training in 2014, and your video with Arthur was part of the training, is required watching.
Wow.
And it was with Fred Bush in Miami, and I cried watching that video. And after I watched it, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do with my life, help people in this way.
Right now, I'll send... I think I sent you the latest video of my buddy Lex, right, Peter? Did I send that to you?
You sent it to me, yes. And I sent it to Crystal, I think. Or no, I'm already sending it to other people. It's such an incredible testimonial.
This is a friend of mine who's literally paralyzed. Quadriplegic paralyzed. At one point could only move his pinky. And I was there the day it happened. I hadn't seen him in 5 years. This guy used to be 6'4", 285 shredded. They call him the total package, Lex Luger. And too long the story to get into, but the bottom line is helped him with a lot of my mat stuff because he couldn't really do a lot. He was just getting back his arms and his leg movement, but he would never get that back. You know, he could move his hands, but he couldn't really grab. If he wasn't, he had just become born again, like maybe a year or two before that. If he didn't have that faith in God and Christ, there is no way he would have been around because he would have offed himself when he became paralyzed. He just would have, but completely different cat. And we got him to where he could walk with a cane. And then I see him, this is like 15 years ago. And then I see him like 3 years later and he's back in the chair. I'm like, Lex, what happened? You were out of the chair. And he said, I stopped doing the stuff that you were teaching me. I got cocky. I got to where I didn't need the cane, and I was walking across the street and my foot hit a pothole and I went down, and I've been in the chair ever since. He said, I did try 2 times because if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's what happens to most people in their 70s, 80s, 90s. They stop moving. So they lose the muscle. The muscle is the most important thing you have as you age. And he got to a point where he was falling down, literally hitting his head. And the neurologist, at the Shepherd Center, he came out of the best place. He's part of the 1%ers, they call him, that he could actually have some movement back in his body and actually move with a walker and eventually a cane. And he was on his own 2 feet, but then he pushed himself too far and it went down. And so now I saw him 11 months ago, and I hadn't seen him for a couple of years. And he had told me that he got to a point where he stopped trying to walk because he got scared, because he didn't want to have a head problem along with with the rest of the nerve problems in his body. And he saw this video I did with a guy named Butterbean, which is a guy who's in so much pain, Hall of Fame boxer, helping him literally get back to standing up straight and walking and getting under 300 pounds and like going, he wants to fight again, that one more fight thing. But Lex had seen him and he's like, do you think, Dally, do you think, maybe we could, try again? And I'm like, absolutely, bro. I'm like, get over my house. I've got an elevator. I'll get ramps to roll you in. And we got him up. And on that video I showed you, he's standing up there by himself. And and that's from a few months ago. And the beautiful thing is right now, he's being considered. I don't know if he'll make it into the Hall of Fame this year, but he's being considered for the Hall of Fame. And I know that because I know some of the inside people that he's being considered. And if he could go in that Hall of Fame this year, it would be unbelievable. And I think it would give him another level of adrenaline to kick in to, his work ethic is off the charts, but our goal is through God's eyes, he goes into the Hall of Fame in the last few, gets up and gets on the walker and, maybe makes it to the podium with nothing. That would be it's like manifesting this dream into reality is something that me and him have both been doing for him. So, that would be really cool.
Such an inspiration, Dallas, hearing your stories. And then they're not just stories, they're real people with real conditions, dealing with it, literally tapping into something that no one else really is helping them with, and getting that access to their own healing potential in a way. I mean, your system has brought people to realize they got to get off their asses and do something for themselves, ultimately.
And more than the most important thing, I just shot a docu-series about a year and a half ago. We finished it up, and we're just now finally getting it completely edited. It'll be up on Amazon Prime, I believe, sometime in later March, towards the end of March. It's called Change or Die. And that's really what we meant, too.
Right.
And that's where Butterbean had come out of it. And we put his short story out there. We're doing a whole documentary on it. But we've had over 15 million people watch that video and be moved. I mean, I'm not good friends with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, but we're friends. We're friendly. We're in the same business. He sent me a message, 3-minute message on Instagram, just like so blown away what Butterbean had accomplished. And that's within this show. Is nothing. It's not a reality show because that's all fake bullshit. This is a docu-series. The same way we filmed the resurrection of Jake the Snake through that documentary that's up on Amazon Prime too. We just filmed everything. And then my business partner, Steve Yu, who's the best storyteller ever. Here comes a big jet coming through here. So, there's a couple of them up there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Well, just let it pause.
Okay. Yeah, they fly through here all the time. Sometimes like right above the water too. So Change or Die is where Butterbean came off of, like what we were actually trying to show. We don't set things up like they do in reality shows. We just let life happen and then we capture it.
Right.
And that's why our stuff's so real, because it's reality based, all of it.
That's fantastic. Crystal, do you want to? I've got so many questions, but I'll give you some space.
Fire away. I'm good. I wanna learn about your inner teacher, Dallas, and like how you came to this place where you didn't just use yoga for yourself, but you were like, I want to bring this to more people. When did that point happen?
God, 20 years ago, 26 years ago, when I first started this, I knew that this was supposed to be like wrestling created this incredible foundation for me. And in the beginning, it was all wrestling fans, but then it grew. These people who saw Arthur's video, the disabled veteran, I will never forget. Peter called me up. Oh my God, I just left Manduka. And this is after he'd already sold it. He was just doing his CEO, sticking around for the company for a while. So he was there, but he wasn't day-to-day running things. He's like, everybody was tripping out watching that Arthur video. You're a fucking rock star, bro. That was unbelievable. I was like, it's kind of like Peter's been one of my yoga mentors along with, of course, my other boy, Cass, never knowing it, but I use those as examples of things, that I want to do, in that space. And, as far as, people starting to come because we inspire people. And to answer your question, Crystal, I was 22 years old and I heard a Bible thumper by the name of Zig Ziglar, one of the greatest speakers ever. His quotes are insanely amazing. But the one that stuck to me like glue was, you can have whatever you want as long as you help enough people get what they want. And I've been doing it since I was a kid. In the nightclub business, we do Toys for Tots, we do charity drives, along with drinking and partying and going crazy and, giving back. And today I help guys get booze free and get sober and never I was trying to do that with Jake in the resurrection of Jake the Snake. And, he has ups and downs, ebb and flows. Each time after we go through, okay, we got to start all over again. I don't judge people. It's just not who I am. And I have that ability raised the way I was raised, and the reward of actually really helping other people. It took 8 years for Diamond Dallas Page to become an overnight success in professional wrestling. It took 8 years for DDP Yoga to become an overnight sensation. And for the last 13 years, we've grown our tribe. And, people still come on and fall off, and then come back on. And, but we've got hundreds, thousands of people who are doing the program, whether it's the app or still the old DVDs, or they've learned it so well they're doing it themselves. And then we've got a whole flood of teachers out there, spreading the word. And I got to tell you, I told Peter I would say this. When I first started, I used to say, most yogis, very namaste. Yoga for regular guys, way more tea a day. And at the time, I meant that. It was men and beautiful women. And then women started really enjoying the workout because of the engaging and the flexing and the punching and all the other stuff that I throw into it. That TNA very quickly became tone and attitude.
Oh, that's better.
Because I'm having people hulk it up, attention, shoulder down, chest down. Like, I just had fun with it. And again, I have so many amazing. My wife, Paige, is an amazing. She was a yoga instructor on all different levels for 13 years before we got together, and now she teaches DDP Yoga. Because again, it's different. It's different then. And I always tell people, there's better than and there's less than. It was ever not the best. Whether that's Shiva Ray, Brian Kess, Phil Yogi in there. Whoever's not that person is less than, unless they're different than. And I've always taken the path less followed. And I really thought about it. There was at one point where I was so close to like stepping into that yoga world where it becomes like the whole yogi guy. You've seen guys who are wild and crazy cats. All of a sudden, they're this peaceful yogi. And I thought about it. And I knew I wouldn't be true to myself if I did that. Yeah. And the other side of it is, I'm not trying to convince yogis to do this. They get it. They understand whether it's Anusara or it's Ashtanga. I don't care, what vinyasa. I don't care what kind of yoga it is. If you got it, then you already get it. I go after the people who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga, and they're the ones who really need it, mentally and physically. And the biggest reason, like when my last book that I wrote called Positively Unstoppable, The Art of Owning It. It is a 6-inch piece of real estate in between your ears. It's your inner voice. It is the story you tell yourself. So that show, Change or Die, is not about weight loss. It's not about eating, real food. It's about having a mindset that you control. Because in our personal lives and our professional lives, each and every one of us are constantly hit with one adversity after another, which we have no control over. But the one thing we have total control, when we take control, when we train our brain, we get to control this. That's it. Yeah. You get to control the way you think. Because of that, it will all come down to the way you react, how you adapt, how you take action, and how you breathe. Yes, and breathing will have everything to do with the way you react, adapt, and inevitably take action. So that's a combination of all of it.
Wow. I had no idea our friendship after how many years? 25 30 years.
Yeah.
Would end up right here in this moment, Dallas. Like, the tables have turned, buddy. Like, you're my guru.
I'm so glad that we got to actually really know each other, and over the years, we've always stayed in touch with each other.
Same.
And, we're right around the same age, and anybody who saw us on the mat.
Days apart. We were days apart.
But if anybody ever saw us on the mat, they would think we were half our age, because what we could still do. It's so important. That's how I hold back the hand of time. I can't tell you how many times I left the gym, but been lifting heavy or whatever. I'm going, God, what I do to my shoulder or my back or my bicep. I have never gotten off that mat and went, boy, wish I didn't do that. Never, ever.
Same.
And I think a lot of the yogis kind of get me, that we were talking about Arthur Klein the other day, his documentary, Why Yoga? The movie, Yoga, the movie, Why Yoga, the movie, I think it was called. But in the beginning of that, there's actually, I can't remember the guy, I want to say his name was Artie, who, when I came out with a book, Yoga for Regular Guys, he was a yogi. He loved the slant on how I did it. And he interviewed me for an article in the Wall Street Journal. And literally, he started out, I believe it was F dash 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 that. I wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. And when I watched that movie with a group of yogis, I know in the beginning, boy, they hated me. Oh my God, they were, oh, this guy, the wrestler. But by the end, I'm in Iraq, and that's the first time I went in 2003, when it was like cowboys and Indians over there, and they couldn't get anybody to go over there. But me and my buddy Rob Dibble went, and every night I'd be doing like regular guys at the time, doing yoga with these guys, 100, 120, 150 guys, and some women. And boy, those guys, I never get on the mat to teach anybody to burn them. I meet them where they are, and I'll push them just that little bit farther so we don't, destroy them and they never want to come back again. But when I went there, all those guys do over there is work out. That's all they do. So I went there to kick their ass. And I did. And I was in my early 50s at that time. But when they see that in Why Yoga, the movie, it completely changes their attitude. It was, oh, I get it. This guy really is a yogi. He's just his own brand.
Yeah, you really are. You truly are. I love what you said earlier about that idea of to be who you want to be, start by helping others, and the research that I did for my book, I started to realize how the mind and the body are inseparable. Any thought that you carry into this world, you have residue of that thought in your body. So if you're thinking shit, you've got shit in your body. But if you're thinking, there were a couple things that this research group in Santa Cruz, Heart Math Institute, they've done some studies about how the positive emotions, what's the most positive emotion to support your immune system, your endocrine system, your nervous system, etc. Kindness. So not love, not, all these other positive emotions, but ultimately kindness. And what's kindness about? The other first, in a way, Can you be empathetic to people less fortunate than yourselves? And so then the writing of my book, I started to realize that this old yogis had these philosophies about what's called the subtle body. And the subtle body has all these channels that move energy in the body. And in the early days of yoga, that was like blah, blah. I didn't have any context to put that information in my head. I was more worried about stretching or, getting stronger or whatever. So as I did the research on my book, the main channel in the body is called Sushumna. And that's a Sanskrit word, and it means the central channel. But the translation of the word is, depending on the context that it's used, there's like 30 different definitions into English. But the one that I found down near the bottom, kindness. So if you want to energize from the inside, embody kindness. And it's like that 6 inches of real estate between your ears. This real estate is in the heart. Like, the word courage is a French word from that meaning of heart. And so for me, it was like, okay, here's a guy and I think maybe you're similar, like there was a dependence on my thinking, but you've got a huge heart, Dallas. I've always recognized this in you. And I feel the same about myself. And in those early days of Manduka, 90% of my energy was up into the head and 10% more or less was around the heart. And I've just kind of flipped that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's my kind of, what would you call it? Keeping aging at bay or manageable is the more time I invest in heart space, I just feel better. I never walk off a yoga mat feeling worse. I always feel better walking off a yoga mat, mentally and physically. So we share that heritage, and you are a true yogi, Dallas, in your unique way, in so many ways.
One of the things you said there about, I was watching this woman on, I don't know, whether it was Instagram or whatever, and she started talking about and the engaging of muscles and, the flexing and engaging, how they secrete enzymes, and they call it now hope molecules, like having a positive attitude. Like my favorite quote ever. I read it in Brainy quote, and this is what the quote was: "The repetitions of affirmations leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen." Now, the repetitions of affirmations, if you break that down, they can be amazing. They can be, the most positive thing that happened to you, or they can rip you apart. And unfortunately, most people's affirmations are really negative. Like, I can't do that. Oh, this is never going to happen for me. Oh, why me? Why is this happening to me? Being the victim. That's, most people make themselves a victim. So many people think of themselves as, worthless. And it's horrible that it's like that, but it's just true. As yoga, God, I don't want to call it a workout. I want to call a
Work
being. Work in. I think that helps people with their repetitions of their affirmations, because no matter what the affirmations are, they lead to belief. You say you can and you say you can't. You're right. First guy that it was quoted saying that was Henry Ford. But what the hell did he ever do? It's like, if you say you can or you say you can't, if you're going to say I can't, say I can't do it yet. But back over to the yet makes it possible. And back over to the repetitions of affirmations, it leads to belief. And once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. When I saw that quote, I looked at who said it, and I went, oh my God, I never heard him say that. I know what his affirmation is, though. So think about that. Like, what are the odds that I would know someone's affirmation? And I'm not going to tell you who said it, but I'm going to tell you the affirmation. It's not a wrestler or anything to do with that. It is a sports figure, though. And this is what he would say. His affirmation was, I am the greatest. I am the greatest of all time. Who said that?
Muhammad
The
Ali.
man. The man. Muhammad Ali.
How do you know that?
It's global. That expression is global.
He says it all the time. He said it.
He said it all the time. He didn't say, God, I'm pretty damn good. All right, I'm going to hang in there. He never said that. Said, even if he went out and lost, I'm still the greatest. He got lucky. I'm still the greatest. It's something that we all know. I use that at the end of every one of my, when I'm doing any kind of corporate speaking or whatever, and then I flash up the picture. When he died, it didn't say Muhammad Ali. Had the fist out, his famous pose with his black and white trunks. It said the greatest. And under that, it said Muhammad Ali in little letters and how long he lived. That cat changed the world on a whole different level.
Absolutely.
On so many different things.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely.
I was listening to a podcast where you were talking about your building a persona and wrestling with like the outfit and the hair and the personality.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, just based on that same topic, if you need to embody that mantra or that affirmation in everything that you do, in the way you do your hair, and the way you dress, and the way you speak, and the way you walk. And
I created Diamond Dallas page. He didn't exist. Bro, do me a favor. You get our battery because my phone's going to lose its charge. I just get certain I plug that into that pink battery you got. The what? No, the iPhone cord. It'll be up there. My brother's helped me out again. I see the little 10% showing up.
Uh-oh.
I think no matter what you do, you've got to be true to yourself. You've got to be authentic. And I built this wrestling persona, but I still wasn't really getting it with the people. I still didn't connect with the people. And then I started to realize my real name today is Dallas Page, but I was born Page Joseph Falkenberg. And I knew that the name Page Joseph Falkenberg was never going to draw any money in the world of professional wrestling. So I created Diamond Dallas Page. Thing is, though, when Page Falkenberg stopped trying to be Diamond Dallas Page, and Diamond Dallas Page started taking on the characteristics of Page Joseph Falkenberg, my career took off like a rocket. And I think a lot of it had to do with timing. I think a lot of it had to do with 10,000 hours. because I believe that repetition. I was going to outwork. I didn't care who it was. I was going to be the top worker in that territory. And it's believing it. It comes down to the repetitions of the affirmations that led to belief. I never knew it like Ali said it, but I knew I was doing exactly what he said in a different way. And I love using that because affirmations are so important. That little voice inside your head is so important. Before I walk out in front of 22,000 people for my Hall of Fame speech, I mean, I've got a 27-minute speech I'm about to give. And they told me I was only supposed to go 15. And then they heard it because they asked me to do it for the WWE. And they said, okay, don't go over 30, you're first. Because they knew I was going to rock the place. And I could have been thinking, oh my God, what if my prompter, which is like a prompter, the iPad, I've got it down to a science. It was like slide. I just looked down for a second, boom, right off. So my ADD doesn't kick in. What if it fails? What if it goes out? Oh my God, what if I forget where I am? What if it's not where? Like that could have been the story I tell myself. But the only thing I was saying to myself, and I do it everywhere, every time, but I use this as the best example of it. This is going to be the best thing I've ever done. I'm going to blow them away. I'm going to make them laugh. I'm going to make them cry. I'm going to inspire them. That's it. Over and over and over. It becomes a loop. Anytime you do not let the bad thoughts in because they will take over.
Did you even look at that teleprompter?
Placed a couple of times. And it's
Right.
because
You don't need it.
Don't need it. And if I was to go, and I've done this before, because I talk about growing up, and growing up with ADD and dyslexia at a time when no one knew what the hell ADD or dyslexia was.
Right.
They just thought we were stupid. And I use this example. I say, for me to read the words the way most of you would be reading them in the book, I would have read, and then I just drop my hands and go, the bottom line is DDP couldn't READ. At 30 years old, I was still reading about a third grade level. And then I go and talk about that. The point is that ADD and dyslexia. ADD means you forget where you are at times because you've got so many things going on in your brain.
Exactly.
And if I find that spot where I go off on that rant and I forget where I was, and I go, okay, I said, what was I talking about right before that? I went on that rant. And they all laugh. And then someone said something. I go, see, you actually were listening. And they come back with, you thought that dyslexia was that ADD was a bunch of bullshit, right? No, it's real. But it put me back on track. So just because people love to see you screw up as long as you laugh with them. Now, if you panic, well, then they're going to panic for you.
Yeah, exactly. I want to, again, it's like we have, I think, this relationship where we're brothers from different mothers,
Right. Yep. Right. I agree.
So the piece that I've experienced similar to your story is this idea of coincidence. And I can just tell Dallas, even though we've not talked about coincidence much, that you've had a lot of coincidences in your life that have given you a platform or given you opportunities to realize who you are, your let's call it your true self. And so and you talked earlier about believing and this Muhammad Ali story, which is so fantastic. When I was writing my book, I reached that point where it was almost done, but I was missing something. There was something essentially missing in my book, and I didn't know what it was. And I was going off to teach up in Canada. I'm in my house thinking, okay, I'm going to go up to Canada for a couple of weeks. I'm going to teach a little, but I'm mostly there to write. I'm forgetting something. I look down on the coffee table. The taxi's at the curb. And guess what book's on the coffee table? The biology of belief. Have you seen this?
Oh, wow. No, I haven't.
So it's written by a Dr. Bruce Lipton. And I looked at the title, never heard of it before, but that title on the book was so powerful. I picked the book up. It was my wife's. I hop on the plane, the 6-hour travel to get up to Victoria. I read the whole book. It was just a page turner. In that book, there were all these bibliographical references to different types of science. He was like a neuroscientist, and his knowledge was all about cellular biology, and how he noticed how our thoughts affected our biology, literally. And his whole thing was, just like you said, that power in believing is sometimes more powerful than fact. You know, like you can change your DNA, in other words. And that is the piece that I integrated into my book at the last minute. All the ways that modern science is starting to realize these things ancient yogis had discovered without the science.
Right.
And what you're saying is powerful, powerful, true. And this is that beauty of believing and trusting coincidence. And this was interesting as I looked at that word coincidence. It's from a Latin word, and it means two things that fit perfectly together. And the way we believe coincidence in English is like some random event that would never happen happens. And it's not like that at all. It's like it's meant to be, these things that come together. Our relationship in so many ways, that Dallas, is that for me. I just feel like we connected at a perfect time for me. And the fact that it's come full circle like this, it's just an honor to be in this conversation with you.
Hey, brother, I've always felt the same way about you, man. And one of the things as you're talking, I'm thinking about, I was on that path of the grounding because of our good buddy Ricky Shred. And then you tell me that you're doing the grounding with them. I was like, oh my God, it's just certain things that hit me at certain times. And then I wanted to know more about that. So now I've got the grounding sheets on the bed, and as much as I can get grounded mentally and physically, because I'm still a Ferrari. I just got 998,000 miles on me. So,
Yes.
so I just got to keep moving. Mentally is the most important part. Like, one of the things, we haven't talked about this, but I do this oxygen training with this company called Aero. And think of being at 22,000 feet. Like right now, if you're at sea level, which I'm right on the sea, so I'm at sea level, we're breathing 20 to 21% oxygen. But when you go up in those, Everest, they call it up there, that's 27,000 feet. So that's got to be like 4 to 5% oxygen. And your body has to get used to that because it's nothing natural about it. It's a fight or flight thing. But now I train first thing when I get up in the morning, and it's not all ready here yet, but if I was back in Atlanta and within the next week or so, I'll be up and getting in a cold plunge for 3 to 5 minutes. Then I'll be getting on the walker and walking backwards for my knees on an incline where I make it go. It doesn't go for me, but I'm also going to be breathing 6 to 7% oxygen. And then I'm going to be getting from there probably about 8 to 12 minutes. Then I'm going to get on a bike and I'm going to start sprinting for 30 seconds. And then I'm going to flip that oxygen on that my body wants, but it's not going to be 20%. It's going to be like 70%. And I'm going to sprint for another 15 seconds and then rest for 15 and then come back and do that all over again. Go to 6% oxygen and flip it to 70%. Do anywhere from 5-10 reps there. Then I'm going to actually just keep it on 70%. No pressure on the pedals, but I'm going to be pedaling. I'm going to push all of the air out of my body. How long can you hold it for? And then when you can breathe, you go right back in that deep breathing again of the oxygen, and you do that for another 5 minutes. And the reason why I'm doing all of that, because it all comes down to this. Our bodies are so important to keep our bodies strong, to keep muscle on, especially as we age. It's so important to keep that muscle. But this is the biggest muscle, the brain. And one of the things that I've learned because I've been doing hyperbaric chambers for 5 years. I've had one in my house. I only use that once in a while now. I use this most of the time because the difference in my memory from when I get caught on a rant and got to try to bring it back, or walk into a room and forget why I walked in there. It has happened less and less and less over these last 18 months that I've been doing this. I've actually charted it. I went for 34 days in a row where I'd walk into a room and sometimes I'd forget why I was there, but I'd remember it, as opposed to walking in, no idea. It'll
Right.
come to me. And look, 34 days is the most I've gone. Today I'm up to like 7. So I keep a track of it. How long can I go? And it's another challenge to your brain. Like your brain, that 6-inch piece of real estate in between your ears, that is the most important thing. And talk nice about yourself. Be kind to yourself. It'll help you be kind to others.
Yeah.
And kindness is king to me. You know, health is wealth.
Awesome.
I'm in awe of you and your level of discipline too. You're amazing.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it. And it's, I'm on Cameo. Right? People hate celebrities to talk to them, birthday presents, whatever they want to do, anniversaries. 60% of the people that comes to me on Cameo are asking me to motivate them. They need their DDP's motivation. And I have to explain to every single one of them. You just said it, Crystal. It said discipline. I have to explain to them it's not motivation. It's discipline. I'm going to share this story with you about one night I was out and I ran into Mike Tyson. And we were both fans of each other. But he's a huge wrestling fan. And we just hit it off. And at some point, he started talking about when he was a kid, like 14 years old, and that he, the only father figure he's ever known was his trainer and his mentor was a guy named Customato. And Cus is 73 years old at the time. And he and his wife moved Mike into their house so he could be around a positive energy force and, teaching good habits and a better mindset. And he said that Cuss used to say to him all the time, I know, Mike, I know you hate discipline, but if you could learn to do it like you love it, if you could just learn to do your disciplines like you love them, you have the ability to be maybe the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time. And it was that dream that became Mike's why. Hey, bro, this thing ain't working. Plug ain't working. It just went to 10%. So check and make sure. If you got that blue cord, it'll go right into here. So that became Mike's why. And that's why a kid who was in and out of juvie all the time started to develop this incredible work ethic. That's why a kid who hated discipline learned to do it like he loved it, because that why was so strong that he manifested that dream of being the youngest world heavyweight champion into a reality. And then I'll explain to him, so where does discipline come from? Again, the only reason I go on social media is to someone grab something and inspire me with. And I love this guy, Jocko. And Jocko, are you sure we got power on that now? I'm just asking, dude, because it's going to go up. I don't want to go up in the middle of this thing. Get the blue cord and get the pink cord, the pink battery you got. Just get that one. This is a fat one. It's got to go to the bolt cord.
Battery doesn't have that.
Yeah, I know it doesn't, but go upstairs and grab one of those plugs that just ask Paige where the lightning bolt charger is. It'll be the white cord. The white cord, it'll be like a block.
My inner
Good
teacher
luck with
with
this.
a quick tech tutorial.
I was watching Jocko, and Jocko is a retired Navy SEAL, and he said that discipline comes from telling yourself the truth. Now, you can bullshit yourself and say, I don't need discipline, but that's bullshit. Everybody needs discipline to be successful. I don't care what it is. If you can just tell yourself the truth that you know you can be better today than you were yesterday. If you can tell yourself the truth that you know you can be better tomorrow than you are today, you don't have to find discipline. Discipline will found you, because all it is you making yourself have the ability to make yourself do what you know you need to do, when you need to do it, whether you feel like doing it or not. And when you start doing it, whether you feel like doing it or not, then you've built this whole different level of confidence. And you built that level of confidence has created a whole different level of your discipline becomes a habit. And once your discipline becomes a habit, well, then you really realize that discipline is the truest form of self-love, ignoring the current pleasure for the bigger reward to come. And when you realize that, well, then it's become a superpower.
It is.
Discipline becomes a superpower. So that's why I live it, because it makes me feel mentally great about myself.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And helping people, the same thing.
The similarities, again, are just blowing me away in this conversation, because I have exactly the same experience with discipline. And I've simplified it, because what I noticed with the early discipline recovering from the broken back was that I felt better. So
Right.
the more I disciplined myself, the more I felt better mentally and physically. And then when I didn't do the practice, I felt like shit. And so
Right.
what I came to realize, when discipline turns to desire, you're free. It's a freedom, because
Right. You want it. You want it.
I want it. It's a desire to feel better. It's not about getting out of bed. It's about what I'm going to feel like after I practice. And that's once you have that understanding embedded in your cells, there's no turning back. You can't turn back. And so
you feel good about you. You feel good about you. Isn't that what we want to be happy? That means I don't need to be elated. I don't need to be over the moon. I just want to feel good. And that's why the way I eat, I'm gluten-free, cow dairy free, unless I'm in France, then I'll eat the cheese, because it's just different there. It's not as much poison. But I'm GMO free. I'm even at this point nightshades free. And I love the taste of some of those foods, but it's not worth the pain it's going to put in my joints, in my back. It's not nothing tastes better than feeling amazing. And when you can make that your discipline, well, then you get to own it. Now, I guess my life may be the most amazing shake that we have here. And it's a new organic, 100% organic powder that me and my partner, Dave Kennedy, came up with. I'm going to actually be putting it out there soon. But it's not just that. It's that, and it's, fresh, raw, cashews and then pieces of coconut and then, carob and all the other stuff that's in there is going to have a big scoop of it. I don't know if you've ever been to Wegmans, but Wegmans has the best organic peanut butter. It costs so much. It's ridiculous, but it's worth it. And that's the kind of stuff I'm going to totally splurge on, because I want whatever I'm drinking or eating to taste amazing. This carnivore stuff, this is grass-fed and grass-finished. It's beef and salt. That's it. And that's the kind of stuff that I eat. I eat stuff that's going to make my body feel healthy. And that gives you a great feeling in your body because of the good nourishment you're putting into your body.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Crystal, in terms of was there anything left that you really wanted to talk about here? Because I'm feeling like this wonderful closure with the topics that we've covered in this session. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think maybe just one more, and that would be what would you say to someone who is looking to forge their own path, but everything just feels unknown and unclear, but they know that they were meant to create something unique like you have. So what would you say to your younger self?
I actually did. There is an online site that Derek Jeter owns, and I can't remember the woman's name, but she had interviewed him, a letter to my younger self, and Jeter was the first to do it, and it was so huge that it turned into this whole big, online sports website. And when I went in the Hall of Fame, they they did one on me, a letter to my younger self. And what's interesting is what you just said there. That's the first question I ask everyone if I'm doing DDP's Gauntlet, which is something I do. It's a workout thing, but we do a conversation all through it and in and out of it. And that's the first thing I want to know. The question is, what would you tell your younger self, and how old would you be when you told yourself that? And for me, it's 12, because I got hit by a car. But I asked a buddy of mine I was interviewing who's 90 and been doing our program since he was 68. His name is Ted. And I said, how old would you be? And Ted said, I'd be 40. So it changes as you get older, which person you would talk to. For me, it would be a 12-year-old. That's why I got hit by a car. I walked out in front of it, my own fault. It hit my right knee. I was saying, tell the bus to wait. I was going to get candy. And it was snowy that day, back when kids still went to school, and it was kind of snowing out. And they didn't shut down the world. But I was looking at the bus in the distance, and I walked right out in front of a car. It hit my right knee, my face bounced off the hood, and I flew 42 feet from impact. And I was going to be a football superstar. I was going to be playing defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys, my 12-year-old self. Okay, that's what I envisioned. Well, they wouldn't let me play football anymore because my knee, how bad it was and everything. And I went to see the number one doctor in New York at the time, who worked on Willis Reed and Joe Namath's, both their knees. And he said to me, you're never going to be Willis Reed. You're never going to be Joe Namath. So hit the books and pay attention in school. Huh. He said that to the guy who couldn't read. So that was going to be a problem. But I would want to go back and talk to that kid and tell him that it's all going to work out for the best. Because it doesn't matter what happens in your life to you. One of the things that I have found out, every time it looks like it's the worst thing to ever happen to me, it's turned out to be the best. How did that happen when I was 12? Well, they wouldn't let me play football anymore. But they'd let me play basketball, which is way harder on your knees than jumping and twisting and turning and jumping and twisting. But I strengthened them through the game. The game I sucked at. And when I was in seventh grade, I didn't even make the team, but I didn't care. I was a football star. Eighth grade, I cared because football was over. And I made the team at 6'3", 160 pounds, but I sat on the bench because I sucked. And that had never happened to me. So that summer, if I wasn't working, if I wasn't surfing, I was down that park and I was playing basketball from morning to night. And I would go on to I would never go to be a professional basketball player, but I was a pretty damn good basketball player. Became one of the best in our county. And it showed me that work ethic equals results. Inside my Hall of Fame ring for WWE, it's inside my ring, it says work ethic equals dreams, ! DDP. Breaking my back looked like it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. It not only was the best thing that ever happened to me, it's been the best thing that happened to hundreds of thousands of people. If you take Arthur's video, which has over 1 billion views between, like you said, someone played it at your, when you were going to your yoga training. Okay. It's been seen logged between just my video on YouTube and Facebook at almost 500 million. And I know it's been on all these different, sites that have inspirational stuff on it, that Arthur's video has been, it's well over 1 billion people. How many people were inspired by that? I helped one guy, and he's helped bazillions. So whatever looks like it's the worst thing to happen to you, if you can just take the time to breathe and really own your breath, because when you own your breath, it's like having a superpower. When I told you about going out to the Hall of Fame to accept my ring and everything and kick off the whole show in front of 22,000 people live and millions of people watching at home, not only was the repetition of affirmation going through my head, by the time I was walking out with my girls, I was breathing in and out for 20. And I wanted to know why that chills you out. So I looked it up in a medical journal. When you're deep breathing, controlling, when I say owning your breath, When you're deep breathing, you are activating the hypothalamus, which is connected to the pituitary gland in your brain, which helps you with anxiety and stress due to the physiological effect it has on our nervous system. When you're deep breathing, you personally are sending neurohormones to inhibit the stress-producing hormones, which triggers a relaxation response in the body. Did you know that the only difference between excitement, oh my God, this is amazing, and fear is whether you're breathing or not? So you feel that. Anyone who's listening to this, when you feel anxiety coming, because we all feel it when it starts happening, you can feel it. And I'll guarantee you, if it's getting worse and worse and worse, you're not breathing. I'll guarantee you. And I'll also guarantee you, if you can just do this, normally I would be doing that in and out my nose because I practiced being a nose breather, but I wanted you to hear it. And take 2, 3, 4 of those, everything will start to dissipate and it'll start to chill you out. So that's a really long answer to what I tell myself, but that's what I would tell myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So thank you, Dallas, again for being who you are and for being with us. It's such a gift to be in your presence, and I hope this podcast session touches thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on. You know, I love you, bro. Crystal, it was great. It was great to meet you. And it's so funny that you asked me the question that normally I would ask someone first. That is so amazing.
Coincidence.
There
it is.
Coincidence? I don't think so. All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You
See
bet.
ya.
See ya. That's it for this episode. Be well and stay open to the teacher within. If you've enjoyed our time together, follow or subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming chats you don't want to miss.